Hi everyone, I apologise, I'm a couple of minutes late, and that is purely because I have suffered a bit of imposter syndrome as I've come to log on. I'm sure it happens to everybody, but yeah, today in particular I could have quite easily said, no, I'm not doing it, I don't want to be here. I've done hours of research for today's little 10-15 minute slot, so I'm hoping that it still is relevant to lots of you, but unfortunately I'm not feeling my best, so it might not be delivered in true EJ style that you're all used to. But anyway, for anyone who is going to join me live or is going to watch this back, I apologise in advance. All of the content is hopefully usable, just not going to be delivered perhaps with my usual EJ flair. And I wanted to be honest with you about that because I think it's very easy for anybody to jump onto a video or, do a recording or a podcast and kind of fake how they're feeling and hide the fact that they're not doing okay on any particular day because we've made a commitment. And this session every month, every Wednesday or last Wednesday of the month at 2:45 is my commitment to putting in the work, to doing a live Q&A if people join, or for answering a question or questions that people have put to me in the month previously. That's my commitment to you. So that is the reason that I have logged on just a few minutes late. So I'm going to give it another minute and see if anybody joins us. But I had a fantastic, got some really good feedback actually from last month's Q&A. And some really good topics to cover. So today, as you will know if you've seen the Facebook posts, is all around menstrual cycle, which is obviously for women, the female menstrual cycle, and training, exercising and nutrition. So I'm going to hopefully cram as much information as I can into the next 10-15 minutes. And like I say, the recording is always available for you guys to watch back at any point if you're part of the page. But if you feel that there's somebody who perhaps isn't a member on the page, why the hell not? Why are they not involved? Please either invite them or just personally message me, and I can either email them a recording of the video, or I can tag them, or somehow we can get the information out to people that you feel might benefit from hearing it. So yeah, I'm going to get cracking because, as always, time is of the essence and I have none of it freely available. So let's start then by kind of explaining what the menstrual cycle is. Nearly everybody will know what a menstrual cycle is, or a period, or a bleed, a monthly bleed that happens for a woman. But interestingly enough, they're not all the same. No two women are the same. No two cycle lengths and things are the same. Everyone will kind of bleed heavier or lighter compared to other people. So everyone's is different. And actually cycle length can vary from anything from 21 to 35 days. And like I say, every woman is different. So I suppose the first thing for you to ascertain for yourself is how long your cycle is. Now, if you are on a contraceptive pill or you use some kind of contraceptive like the coil or injections and things like that, your cycle may be very different, if not completely not there. You might not have a cycle at all. You might not have a regular bleed, but your body will be used to a cycle. So it's really important to ascertain what your cycle length looks like. And again, later on in life, coming into perimenopause and menopause, your cycle, well, when you're in menopause, it will be non-existent, but actually your cycle can change dramatically. And a lot of women report that their cycle changes depending on how stressed they are, or what's kind of going on in their personal life as well. So there's some really great apps out there. One in particular that I recommend to my clients and one that I use myself is called Flow, F-L-O. And that is a really good way. There is a bought version, but there's also a free version that you can use, which helps you basically just track every day of your cycle. You can kind of put in what your side effects are. And I suppose one of the main things about awareness of your cycle is how you're feeling and kind of tracking patterns, which you're then able to pick up on later down the line. But for every single woman, your menstrual cycle means basically that there's going to be lots of changes in the hormones, a frenzy of kind of mood swings and cravings, which is one of the main things that people kind of ask me about, is how can they manage that craving or offset the craving. And there is then also a need to adapt both your training and your nutrition, because we can't be expected to train or eat at a million miles an hour all the time. It just isn't possible, and hopefully today I'm going to explain why. And for the women out there in particular, and even the men, you know, if you're going to watch this because you want to make sure you're supporting your wife in the best way possible, or your girlfriend, and making sure that they feel supported, please do watch this. It would be great for more men to be on board with this as well. But ultimately, the small tweaks and kind of understanding of each woman's individual cycle will help you not only hopefully enjoy the process of your training, but also maximize your training strategy and also your nutrition. So let's start from the beginning. Your monthly cycle starts the first day of your menstruation or your bleed, and typically, and again this is different for everybody, but typically it will last between 3 to 7 days. You know, I do know people who will only have a couple of days of their actual period and then menstruation's finished. Others can last a lot longer. Again, a lot of this can be down to stress, but training at this time can be a bit hit and miss. You might have loads of energy one day and then just absolutely plummet the following day. So when it comes to training around this time of the month, I would have a rough plan of what you'd like to achieve, but really manage your expectation with that and don't sweat the small stuff. You can still exercise or get a workout in. It might just look slightly different to what you're used to. So perhaps go for lighter weights, or go for a walk or a swim instead of going to the gym. Or kind of just change up maybe go for a bike ride if that feels comfortable for you. Just something that still means you're getting that hit of really good endorphins, because obviously we really want to try and manage that throughout our cycle because of the change in the hormones. But actually the increase in our core temperature around this time of our cycle means that you are a lot hotter when you're trying to train. So you might find that maybe you can train to the intensity you're used to, but you perhaps need some extra breaks, or you need to drink more fluids, or you find that you overheat. So a really good tip at this time of the month as well would be to wear, if you're going to the gym, or if you can take your workout outside, great, because that fresh air would be really helpful. But if you are going to a gym environment, make sure you've got lots of thin layers on so you can offload and onload at any time. So that kind of covers week 1, roughly, of your cycle, your menstruation, your bleed. And like I said, tracking that on a regular basis, so you can on this particular app, and I'm sure you can do it on all of the others as well, you can kind of track how heavy or light your period is. You can also track side effects, so you might experience things like feeling too hot, or actually going the other way and feeling a bit colder, or you know, you can track what cravings you have, all those different kinds of things, so that when you get a couple or 3 months worth of data loaded into the app, it will actually kind of trigger what your side effects might be. So it'll say to you, you know, on this particular day you might be feeling X, Y and Z, and actually getting that notification from an app can kind of put you at ease a little bit, because you go, oh, that's why I've been feeling that particular way. So let's move on to week 2. Week 2 is called your follicular phase, and research suggests that this is actually the best time to maximise your higher intensity training. So there's actually not a great deal of research, but whatever research I have managed to find suggests that it can result in higher increases in muscular strength in women compared to kind of later on in your cycle. So that week after your bleed is when you might feel fantastic, and actually when you read around, like I do because I'm a total geek, read around, you know, Olympic runners or events people, or people who you know, are the elite, they're at the top of their game. Women in particular will report that in this particular week of their cycle, that's when they will hit personal bests, or they'll run the best time they've ever run, or they will be able to lift the most that they've ever lifted before. So this would be an ideal time to focus a bit more then on your resistance training or your strength training. And one of the key things to mention at this point is to focus, and I will mention food again a little bit later on, but when you are doing that slightly higher intense training, resistance training and strength training, it is so important to fuel your body with protein. And obviously eating foods which support your liver, and again I will come on to that a bit later on. So that is kind of weeks 1 and 2. We're at the halfway point now, or roughly halfway point. And ovulation. day 14 or around day 14 is ovulation day for women, and this is the day. This is when you will be at your strongest. As an aside, it's also when you'll be your most fertile, so please be careful. But actually it makes total sense, because if you consider that ovulation is the time when you're your most fertile, your body's kind of ready to take on, you know, if you're looking at getting pregnant, your body's ready to accept the sperm. I don't really know a nice way of putting this, but anyway, your body is at its most ready, so your body temperature is relatively warm. The hormones that flood your body mean that pregnancy is a lot more likely to happen, which again in turn explains why we would be at our strongest, because our body is kind of at the optimum place to push for personal bests and increase that strength and resistance training. But also if you enjoy doing kind of HIIT training, this would be a really good time to do that as well, because you'll really get the most out of your session. If you do go to the gym quite regularly, or if you are the kind of person, if you've got a trainer or a coach, or if you just are quite religious about tracking your weight training, for instance, ovulation day would be the perfect day to do like some 1 rep max testing. So basically, for people that don't know what that is, you go to the gym, you pick a few different exercises which you kind of do on a regular basis, but also like compound moves, like I don't know, squats, deadlifts, those kinds of big movements that you would do. You basically test how much you could lift, but just one repetition of them, and then from there you can work out you know, any percentage, so 50% of your 1 rep max, 60, 70, 85% of your 1 rep max, and then you can taper your training accordingly. So you would have you know, if you did like a 4-week training cycle, let's say you would do 1 week at 60%, then you'd go up to 1 week at 70%, then you would do perhaps 1 week at 75% of your 1 rep max, and then you would have a deload week. This is just an example. This is not something for everybody to go now and follow. But that's kind of what the benefits of 1 rep max testing does, because it shows you again how strong you are or how you're progressing. So again, if you get to, you know, day 14 of your cycle each month, and you decide that that's the day you're going to go to the gym and you're really going to test how much you're improving, that would be a brilliant time to do it. As an aside though, because of the increased level of hormones in your body, on those fertile days at the start of kind of ovulation and at the start of your cycle in particular, you are a lot more susceptible to injury. So please make sure, as a rule, I hope that everybody warms up, but I know a lot of people probably don't. So at this time in your cycle particularly, it's really important to make sure that you really do thoroughly warm up, not just using a cardio machine and then going and jumping on and doing some weights. Do a warm up set with a lighter set of weights before you start lifting heavier. Make sure that you're stretching, make sure you do some dynamic exercises and not just kind of static, because you want your body to be as ready as possible for what the session you're about to put it through. So spend a little bit longer on that in particular. But again, women in particular are super mobile at the joints. And again, during ovulation, we produce a hormone called relaxin, which is the whole body is flush with during pregnancy. So our joints and ligaments can tend to get quite relaxed, as it says in the word. So it's really important as well to make sure that when you are performing these exercises at the gym, you're not going past your full range of motion. So if you can, if you're using any machinery or if you're using free weights in particular, try and make sure that you can catch your reflection in a mirror or a window, just to make sure that you're not over or under egging the exercise. You want to make sure that you're not pushing past that range of motion, which is where you will be susceptible to injury. Okay, so now we're in the second half of the cycle, post ovulation, and that part of your cycle is called the luteal phase, Luteal phase. I've heard it pronounced loads of different ways, but that's the way I'm going with. But that basically falls on the 3rd and 4th week. So you've got the 1st week menstruation, 2nd week follicular phase, 3rd and 4th weeks make up the luteal phase. And again, this is where your body is not only recovering from a bleed, but also then getting ready for another one. Hopefully that makes sense. So what happens in this second half of your cycle is estrogen levels start to drop, and then progesterone levels dramatically increase. And progesterone in turn increases the levels of cortisol in our body. Now, you might have heard of cortisol before. It's the hormone that's related predominantly with stress. So that's why there's another explanation really for mood swings around that time. Not only mood swings, but also kind of extreme dreams. I know for a fact that when I am in that second half of my cycle, the hormones really play havoc with my sleep as well. So if you find that you're having just totally irrational dreams, that could be a reason why. So you may start to experience kind of a lacking in energy, cramping, which is obviously that unfertilized egg and the womb lining is starting to break down, particularly towards the end of that phase. So they're all normal side effects, but it just kind of explains a little bit more in detail why that happens. And actually, because of our kind of general low mood, you might not feel like exercising at all. It's probably going to be right at the bottom of the list. However, if you are an avid gym goer, or you're in a walking club, or you go running, or you like cycling or swimming, or whatever your thing is, hopefully you will know that you never regret a workout when it's finished. It can be really, really difficult to motivate yourself to go, and at this phase in your cycle you will definitely be feeling like you could much happier sit on the sofa and eat a bar of chocolate, and again I'll cover why in a minute. But trying to make an effort, the same as you do in week 1, where you don't know what your energy levels are going to be like, so just commit to yourself to doing something. It might just be a 30-minute walk on your lunch break, or it could be going for a swim, or it could be doing just some stretching, just something that makes you feel good. You've moved your body, you feel like you've done something. It doesn't necessarily have to be a really heavy session. And like I say, it's not to say that it wouldn't be beneficial, but actually rather than physical side effects, it's going to have a lot better side effects to your mental health. That's why we kind of protect it. Well, that's why I would say to still make sure you exercise at that time of the month. And again, this is that kind of low mood and that feeling of lethargy is really because your body's kind of either preparing for pregnancy, or it's past the point and it knows that you're going to have another menstruation again. So your endurance definitely won't be at its peak at this time of the month either. But I really just want to say and hammer home, don't beat yourself up over it. And I'm the worst person in the world for doing that. I think, I've missed a workout today, and I kind of beat myself with this big stick. But actually, when we understand our cycle and you kind of look back, if you've got a training diary, on how many days you have been successful at doing something compared to the few days where you feel like utter crap and don't end up doing anything, the positives far outweigh the negatives. So just make sure that you're being a bit kinder to yourself at that time, and manage your own expectation about both your training and your nutrition respectively. So nutrition, let's jump on to cover that, because I feel like I've rabbited on for quite a while now. So eating rubbish foods, or feeling like you want to eat crap foods, basically. That second phase, the luteal phase, weeks 3 and 4, before you come back round for your bleed, that's when women will, got hiccups, will typically say that they've got PMS, or I really crave just sweet treats and rubbish, and crave because of the hormones again. So it's having that knowledge that is the time that's going to come. So we'll reach for things like caffeine or alcohol, carbonated drinks, snacks which are high in salt. We're chasing that craving all the time. And I totally understand why. And obviously, I'm a woman, I'm guilty of these things as well. But actually, when you dig deeper, the more of those foods you reach for, the worse those side effects like cramping, brain fog, just generally feeling rubbish about yourself. Those side effects are exacerbated by eating and drinking those particular things. So really try and focus on steering clear of those. You might find that you really crave carbohydrates more than your kind of lean protein meals that you would normally have. And again, that's absolutely fine. That's totally normal. That's our body's way of saying, I just need that bit more energy. I'm not quite getting enough. And we have to listen to our body. But by eating carbohydrates, I don't mean let's go and have 10 cakes and put syrup in our coffee. That was really American. I didn't mean for it to sound like that. It's, yes, you can eat carbohydrates, and I probably need to talk about carbohydrates on another video entirely, because a lot of women worry about carbohydrates. But carbohydrates in terms of like whole meal or whole wheat, so rice, pasta, bread, making sure that they are full of grains, and your bread in particular, steer clear of white bread, because that is just the devil, as I said to Noah in the shop the other day. Just steering clear of those things, because they will be a lot kinder to your gut. They will fill you up for longer. They'll sustain your energy a lot longer, which is what our body is craving at this time of the month. And go for high fibre foods and things that, green leafy vegetables like your broccoli, like your spinach. Get lots of sweet potato in as well. All these things are really good sources of carbohydrate, but they will sustain you for longer. They're not as detrimental to the gut, and they will just make you feel a little less lethargic than, a bag of crisps, that bar of chocolate. I'm not saying, please don't think I'm saying chocolate is off the table, because I'm absolutely not. But we want to try and reach for, not black chocolate, dark chocolate, as opposed to kind of milk or white chocolate. I know that's not what our body wants, but dark chocolate is a much better source for you. It does hit the sweet craving, but also it doesn't kind of increase or spike your insulin levels the way that other chocolate does. And there's not as much rubbish in it. So if you can, reach for other things like, dark chocolate, fruits, nuts, or a great little hack of mine, actually, which I share with all my clients. It isn't a revelation, but I just find that it works really well. And that's sweet and salty popcorn. Because I don't know if you've ever been in a position where you're kind of chasing the craving. Do I want something sweet? Do I want something savoury? That kind of gets you both angles, job done. You don't need to then chase, I've had something sweet, so now I should probably have something savoury. So hopefully that helps. But like I touched on earlier on, protein is essential, especially if you are training, because whether it's through a protein shake, or whether it's in a plant-based diet, or whether you're an avid meat eater, however you get your protein in, at this time, more so than any other time in your cycle, your body is going to need that energy, that fuel. And as much as we think that carbohydrates are the ones that give us that, protein trumps carbs every time. And as well, protein, one of its main things is maintaining muscle mass and helping you increase your strength ahead of your bleed. So foods such as fish, lean meats, tofu, eggs, beans, lentils, chickpeas, all these fantastic sources of protein that we've talked about before. And actually, if you are in charge of doing the cooking, I would suggest actually, if you have got a really good idea of where you are in your cycle, or, in 2 weeks' time, I'm not going to feel like standing and prepping a really nice healthy meal. I'm just going to want to order a Domino's. Other takeaways are available. Then why don't you create some superfood meals for yourself ahead of time and put them in the freezer? This is a great little hack, especially if you're a super busy mum or just a very busy person in general. So superfood curries or hot pots, if you can make those ahead of time, then you're much more likely to make good choices or better choices when you really don't want to stand and cook. So I hope that helps. Let's just double check that I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I keep glancing over here because my notes are here. I'm not ignoring the screen. Yeah, that's kind of everything I think I wanted to cover. The other thing I just wanted to touch on was magnesium-rich foods. So things like pumpkin seeds and spinach, and again, dark chocolate at this time of the month. So the last half, but actually that last kind of week is where you want to make sure that you're really getting those good fruits and vegetables and vitamins in. So your pumpkin seeds, your spinach, dark chocolate. They will all help not only with energy levels, but also your libido. Again, it feels a bit of a taboo topic, but I don't know why it should be. So let's normalise it a bit more. When you're feeling really rubbish, you're not feeling in the mood at all, are you? So maximise that time for yourself as well. That's all I'm going to say on that. So as a rule then, before I wrap up, if you are feeling really fatigued, and like I touched on at the very beginning, just back off on the training. I'm not saying completely cut it out. I'm not saying that you have to push through if you really don't want to, because there's nothing wrong with a rest day. You know, I do advocate for rest being just as important as the training that you're doing. But some days you just need to completely lay off, and that's okay. But if you feel like going for a walk or a swim, or just doing a bit of stretching, a bit of yoga, a bit of online Pilates, something like that would make you feel better, do it. Just do it. But if you love training and you feel like you would be missing out if you didn't go to the gym 5 days a week, even when you are feeling at your most rubbish, then just be mindful of decreasing your weights a little bit so that you can still do the whole session, but perhaps just not to the intensity that you're planning. And that really is it from me. Thank you to people who have jumped in and out and joined me. I'm glad that some people have been watching live. But like I said, as soon as I hit finish, this will go on to the Facebook page, so please feel free to comment or like on there once you've had a little watch. Share with friends and family, and if there's anyone who can't physically access this that you think would really benefit from having a look, anybody at all actually, you know, any girls from as young as, you know, 13, 14, or whenever they've started their cycle, if you feel that this would be beneficial for them, please feel free to share it with your kids or, you know, your friends' children. That's absolutely fine with me. And as ever, feedback is gratefully received. And if you've got any more questions on what I've covered today, or you've got some ideas for juicy topics to cover in the next couple of months, then please just drop me a message or send me an email. And I will bid you adieu. That wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be with that damn imposter syndrome just before I started there. Thank you guys for tuning in.